Well, all right, well, so 6 o'clock we'll start. Just let everybody know this is a hybrid meeting, so it is being recorded. So we'll call the meeting to order. The first thing we need to do is we're adding 2 items to the agenda. A grant application to PACIF in the road foreman's report. And letter of support for the Landmark Trust that I believe Alex has. We'll add that for discussion and or action under correspondence. All right, minutes from March 20th from a previous meeting. I think everybody has them and has reviewed them.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes of the meeting.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion on the meeting minutes? Any issues, problems? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to the warrants. There's 2 warrants out there that we got. We have 20P, which is the payroll, and 20, which is just number 20 of the month.
I'll make a motion that we approve the payment of warrants 20 and 20P.
I'll second that.
All right, discussion. The payroll is fairly standard. The warrant 20, the largest payment on there is I think $11,000 for probably our biannual payment for the gravel pit on the bond. I'm assuming it's biannual since all bonds work in biannual payments. So it was about $11,000 to $12,000. The rest of the stuff was diesel fuel, electricity repairs, parts for the garage, things like that. Anyone like to make a motion?
We already did.
We already did.
Did we? We already did. Now that we've covered that, discussion's closed. My order in order. So approving warrant 20 and 20P. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? All right. ARPA funding. Anything of interest?
Nope, other than the warrants include payments to the community center for the air exchanger and boiler fresh air, and to the fire department for helmets.
All right. So visitors, public comment. Your stuff may be further down the agenda. Is there anyone that isn't on the agenda?
I'd just like to be recognized at this point and say that I am coming because of something farther down on the agenda,
Okay.
but I'd like to show up here also.
Sure. What's your name? Can you?
Claudia Teachman Blocker. I live down on just off of Route 5.
Do you want to introduce yourself too, Sandri?
I'm Natalie Blake, and I'm here for the ROW
Okay.
Old Railroad.
I know the rest of the folks. If you want to know them, they can introduce themselves.
Leon Dunbar, I'm here on behalf of the fire department.
Larry Pratt on behalf of the fire department.
Lee's like, Lee, our highway manager, Lee Chamberlain.
I
All right, so here we go. So the road foreman support. Do you want, Lee, is there stuff you want to cover first before we go through the items on here, or can we just do them in order?
Oh, we can do them in order.
All right, West Village right away, Town Road. I'll give an update of where we're at. So we have a huge pile of deeds that go all the way back to when all this land was put together, and how it ended up where it is. It goes back to World War II and the old bridge and the railroad tracks and the quarry and everything else. We're gonna have the town attorney kind of sort out what's what so that we know what our options are. Because right now I think there's a number of options that could be thrown up, the town could keep it. The north end of it is a little questionable, whether that's actual town road or it's just been accepted as a right of way for all these years. Because the town's road comes from behind the community center, actually ends just north of your property. That northern end does not belong to the town. And so we have to figure out what's going on and what our options are. And so I know that we've had a couple other people from the road here in previous meetings. So, you know, if you have questions, what do you want to throw out at us?
did you say any questions?
Yeah, questions or just commentary that you have on it. That, you know. Well, I'll give you my understanding. So I looked at the permit that you filed to make the multi-unit dwelling.
A lot in 2012. like
Yeah,
5
10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Uh-huh.
I was in the office, I'm like, can I get a copy of that? So your parking spaces in the back were part of the permit, which was approved. So I wouldn't know why a permit would be approved if there's not access to parking spaces. So I know that much, and I think you're coming through to the DRB in May, possibly, to talk about the parking in front. And so that's kind of the extent of my knowledge. Is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I kind of decided I would just come to share. There seems like there's a few, some misinformation out there that my neighbors, they might not understand what's happening. So I just wanted to present the information so that there wasn't any misinformation. Because they were speaking about that as being an Airbnb. And it is listed on Airbnb, but it's not a short-term rental. It's only because I don't have a permit for that space. So it can only be a 31-day or more, which is your standard rental that I guess we all could rent our places for that. So it's not a come and go Airbnb, nor do I intend to make it that. I'm not going to apply for a permit for that space. So that's just one. I just want to clear that. And I did have, there was some mention also that I had parking spaces that were maybe too close to leach fields and septic and all that. So there are 3 spaces that, if you're looking at the building from the back, there were 2 on the left and, how'd it go? 2 on the left and 1 on the right. And I asked Michael Marquise to switch that so that there would be 2 here and 1 over here. And he did so, and he's the one that drew up all the plans for that. So there are legal isolation distances from the leach field and the septic tank back there. So now I have 2 legal spaces over here, and the access for them is that road. So I think what upset my neighbors was I just had my plow guy plow it because I thought I had a right of way, and I obviously should have gone to them and said, hey, this isn't usual behavior. I just want to let you know that I'm going to do this and hope, I think I have a right of way. But I didn't do that, so I think it ruffled some feathers when I had some long-term people stay there. So those parking spaces did get changed, so I now legally have 2 over there. And then for sure I'm going to try to get some more leeway up top. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I wrote myself some little notes to not forget. Yeah, I guess that's it. And I understand totally why they would want to throw up the road and have it returned to land. I get it. And I'm not quite sure how I would access that back. But that may have nothing to do with it, and the deeds will say what it is, and that's the way it goes. So just here stating that too, that of course I hope to be able to work something out that's amenable to them, so I can access the back there.
I have the drawings, I don't know if anybody's seen them. So yeah, the 2 spaces are behind the house, and the single space is around the right side of the house, right?
No, there's, so if this is the Grange, and there's 1 space up here, there's now 1 space here and 2 spaces here, and this is the ROW.
Right.
So to come in there, yeah, but they're both, well, maybe you could say to the side, it's kind of like between the post office and the building, it kind of wedges in there, so maybe that's what you mean by
But there's no way down the right side of the building to get to those parking spaces. 'Cause
There's
it's
no
set
way down, well, here, I mean, I guess you could drive around, but then on the lawn, but if you drive around, you'd be stacking up cars and it would be pretty challenging to get those cars out. And if 1 car came in here, that would be blocking these. And because there's such limited parking with that building, I have 2 spaces for each dwelling, and in the bylaws of the state and Dummerston, you have to have at least 2 spaces. So I only now have 2 spaces for each dwelling. So I have to have parking somewhere legally for the building. So it definitely brings up the issue of that ROW and needing access to those places.
So, do I understand correctly that you'd like to keep it a town, property, town road, so you could continue accessing it?
Well, I'm fine to, I don't know if town road means the town would plow it, which it's not now.
No,
Okay, because I'm fine to plow
town
it and
ownership.
take care of it. So however it would be, as long as I could have a right of way to drive over that, and I will maintain it. It's a little muddy right now. It needs some SurePack, and I would plow it. So I'm fine to do that if I can have that right of way to it. So I don't know if that means it stays a town road or not, or it's like a driveway.
Yeah, we'll sort that out.
So what about the people on the other side of it? So you plow the whole thing?
I did once, actually. There's no snow this winter. And then because I just have one person right now, I've had very limited people in there. I just had her park on the right because I knew it was ruffling feathers, so we didn't.
There's the one house out behind you that runs his driveway up to the part.
Dave.
It's gravel.
Yeah.
Because so he needs that plowed too, right?
Well, he changed his driveway.
Oh, yeah, I saw
So
it.
his driveway used to be here.
Yeah.
And he now made it up here. And I did walk over to him one day and said, hey, I'm going to have the plow guy do the whole thing. Is that okay with you? Or, just letting you know. So I did end up plowing that. So I would end up plowing the top of his driveway or whatever his access is that does dump out onto that road a little bit.
Right.
So you ended up coming in from the fire station end to the back of the Grange? That end?
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Yes. And that is the question that I had too. It does not show that as actual town right of way.
Right.
Now, as far as coming in from the community center end, that does show it as a town right of way on the map. So,
Community center, and that would then mean I would have to go over Gudadar and Kalsa's land?
yes. And
Well,
come-
I think that land is marked off. So Route 61 is what it's called. That runs from West Street down alongside the community center and then back out. So I just found all this out. So he lives on that one side of the road. He's got his pickleball court on the other side.
Yeah.
He doesn't own the road.
Right.
That's a town-owned road. So he just happens to own everything on both sides. But if you look at the deeds, there's dotted lines at that point, and so it's town road. I mean, I've walked it. It's not really in a state to be used for driving. I mean, it's basically a grass-covered rut.
So
So that's why we're going to the attorney to figure out. There's all kinds of weird things that have to do with, even if they own that chunk of the road, if when the railroad and everyone else gave that land out, what were the parameters? With the parameters that this is a right of way, it's understood that, because apparently that's how people used to get to the school, was down that road. And so he just has to tell us, regardless of whether you throw it up or not, if it's an accepted right of way, it can't be chained off. So we just need to have all that legal stuff from him. And then once we have that, we'll all sit down together and talk to everybody, figure out what the best option is.
yeah, cool.
But that's why we have an attorney.
Okay, cool. Just to clarify that, so Route 61 goes, and you said, does it stop north of my?
It stops north of your property. So when you come down, if you look at the other end, the end you come, the town road part of it, well, actually I shouldn't say north. If you're coming down, you cannot get to the back of your property unless you come from the community center on town road.
And that's what you're saying?
You're locked in isolation.
And we actually have a measurement up there right behind you on that map, and it will, we'll have to measure it out from, West Street down around by the community center up, and then we could tell you exactly where the road, that right of way ends.
And again, your DRB meeting, I believe, is to be able to park 4 out front. Is that right?
Not for, just to be, not it's restricted. I believe that it was falsely, the thought was that I can only have 4 spaces, when it's actually, I need to have at least 4 spaces.
Oh, okay.
So I should be able to park, as long as I'm within isolation distances and not in right of ways, I should be able to park more cars.
Right. Larry, quit playing video games.
No.
Got something you want to show everybody? All right, any other questions? Well, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
We'll let you know.
Okay, great, good, thank you. Awesome, thanks, y'all.
All right, Stormwater Municipal Road Permit. Lee, we're in your section. Anything you want to?
Yes, I don't have anything to add to that. I didn't actually see, I looked in the highway part and I didn't see it in there. I didn't know if you guys, there's a fee involved, right? You have to pay that?
Yeah, I think it was due a couple days ago. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if it was paid or not.
Yeah.
I think it came through as an email.
Oh,
And I
okay.
think Lori sent it to us and you.
Okay,
So,
she could have.
yeah.
Yep. But yeah, I would. Yeah. Because, I think it's.
All right. Yep. Pass a report on the highway garage. You guys safe?
Okay.
Fixed everything?
Yeah, I mean, a few things were noted. I had called him down for the lighting, to look at the lighting, so then we'd have a better chance of getting that grant. I don't know if anyone read the whole thing or not, but it's, they got us for the step ladders for just leaning them up in the shop instead of actually laying them on the floor or tying them up or something. The drill press not being secure. First aid kits, like eye washes every 5 years, those kind of things. We just have to make sure we update those. The garage doors, they would like to see everything electric because of back injuries. I can't say I agree with that, but a power strip in the office, VOSHA's safety and health sheets that go up on the wall for the employees, and Lori got those printed off today. The truck bay lighting, they did give us that, and we're going to send it in with the grant, so that will increase our chance. Storage in front of electrical panel. I was going to bring this up at some point. It doesn't necessarily have to be now, but we do have like 40 different tires on rims for all the trucks. Winters, we swap them out, winters to summers. So there's one corner of the building that's got all those tires there, and they are in front of a electrical panel. Not the electrical panel that with the breakers in it and those kind of things, but there's like a disconnect over there. So eventually I was thinking of unless somebody had a better idea, one of those 20-foot storage containers to put all the spare tires and get that corner of the building cleaned up. And I just put that right now, I believe, beside the salt shed on one side or the other, so it wouldn't really be visible from anywhere. It's just a matter of money to do it.
So that was a concern, the electrical.
Yeah, because you couldn't get to it, really, that one. So that was pretty much the report, the fire alarm system, and we're gonna get that inspected, and we found this one here needed to be inspected too. So we're in April, our fire extinguishers are due. So they'll do those at the same time. So that's what I got on that.
All right.
We'll work on them all. I don't think there's anything real huge, and I don't think, yeah. All right, it's all things we can do. The trash on Stickney, I still haven't seen it. We looked back at the email to try to find the address, and then it snows every other week up there, so we'll find it eventually.
So what is in corporate knowledge?
What was that?
Why are you looking at me?
Because your corporate knowledge. So, in the past, we've dealt with these type of issues. I believe the email said that it's on the Brattleboro side of the line. Not that matters to me that much, but how do we deal with this?
Okay,
I think it's the town of Brattleboro has their water.
water department land.
Yeah.
We're town of Brattleboro owns like, just say 400 acres up there.
Yeah.
For their watershed. So I believe it's on that side of the road.
But it's within Dummerston.
So the trash, we pick it up if it's in the right of way. If it's out of the right of way, we don't. And then we'll note it. And Charlotte used to keep track of where in town it might come from, just for general knowledge. So it is kept separate from the trash, like up at the shop where they pick up trash.
I would say there's an uptake
in it, you know, there's more. There was a couch down on the white line of East West Road the other day. Different things, you know, but it's usually pretty good. And we have some good volunteers in town that walk around and pick up trash a lot.
It sounded like the Stickney Brook trash, the person who notified us found a name in some of the trash. Has there been a history of billing people that when we find out who littered?
That's a sticky subject because all they have to do is say that, you know, so-and-so took it from my house, and
From the dump or who knows.
I used to have to deal with that all the time in my last shop.
Isn't it more or less a police matter? Something like that?
If you find the name, if you want to turn them in, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you would give them the name. I know that it's been tried before. I'm just not sure on the
That's what I was
success
wondering.
of it. Because I think there is a lot of that too, you know, where if they really want to try to get out of it, it's more of they should be embarrassed, you know, that kind of thing. You know,
I agree with you there.
All right, great. So the last item on this section is the PACIF grant application, which we added to the agenda. And so this is for lighting. We've got it here, it's $4,600 request. Here it is. $4,036.97. So this will be submitted to,
yeah,
As it
insurance
goes.
company, yeah.
okay?
Can I take a look at that?
Yes, please do.
Is the 4,000, is that the whole thing?
Yes.
That's everything.
Yeah, that's labor. I called like 3 different electricians. We got prices, they're all about $100 an hour.
Will the grant cover that 100%?
No,
No,
50,
50%.
50%.
So we dig into ARPA funds for a couple thousand?
Yeah, and,
That's about all we have left.
Right.
and
And the Energy Committee expressed willingness
That's
to
right.
spend some money. So is this LED lighting? I can't tell.
yes,
from
it's
here.
the same bulbs that Smokey had
Okay.
written down. I put that out for 2 different companies.
Oh, good.
Is it Granite City?
Yes.
Granite City, and then like Bulbs or Us or whatever they are. And they're very close, both companies, but Granite City did get it by a couple $100 or something.
And they're locals.
Yes, exactly. I think it's a win-win. Right, and then if we can't get that money, I guess we'd wait until the end of towards the June-ish mark and see where the budget's at, for the highway fund.
When do you think you'll hear?
The person who came down, Wade, said it's usually like a 2 to 3 week turnaround.
Great.
He says it's pretty quick. So, he didn't really give any like strong opinion one way or the other. Yeah. There is another thing I had, which is, and I mentioned it to you out in the parking lot, was that oil furnace up at this shop. And neither of you came to the building, right, to see during that inspection. So our oil furnace ended up breaking down, and it's not fixable, even though we spent some money trying to get it fixed. So the question was, oil breaks down over time, like 2 years. We have the outdoor wood boiler, so we don't tend to use any oil in the last 11 years since we've had a wood boiler. So I don't believe we need something that expensive for a backup heat up there. So I was thinking of, this is just thoughts, we can go over it more, but just heat pump in the office. And then we were just up there, there's water in the bathroom, the utility, or the actually tool room where the hot water heater is. And down at the other end of the building, there's water at the pressure washer, but that can be drained if something happens. So the only spot we have to heat is the bathroom and that tool room. And to put in propane, I think it's gonna be quite a bit of money to do a propane system for the whole garage. So that's what I was thinking, it was just something simple, one heat pump in the office.
Do you know, sorry to interrupt, do you know the square footage roughly that you need to heat?
For the total building or just where the water is?
Just what we're talking about here.
Just with the water?
Yeah, just the part that we're talking about.
Yeah, we're only talking, 20 by 10.
Oh, very small, okay.
It's fairly small, 3 separate little rooms.
This totally sounds like the energy committee.
Right,
Project.
right. And with that audit, they had heard the furnace blower, and they were talking about looking into doing something there. I don't know what. And I don't know if you've heard back.
We haven't done that, I don't
Right.
think.
It's no hurry on doing this. It's just a matter of just something to think about. And I don't believe we really technically need anything as long as that outside boiler is going. We burn wood. We wouldn't even need to use anything. But I do think one heat pump would be
Yep.
nice.
How much, what you said you're storing oil that's.
Right,
somewhat
yeah,
older?
see, right now we have to,
How many gallons for?
there's probably 150 gallons in the tank right now, which is, like say, 11 years old. So we're gonna end up pumping it out, and it'll probably go to a waste oil burner, because you wouldn't wanna put
You
it
don't
in
wanna
equipment or
burn it in
anything like
trucks.
that, right, right.
Leon, any thoughts on that?
I got all kinds of thoughts. I mean, Lee's pretty accurate all the way around.
You don't.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I agree with this. I agree with this heat pump issue and the oil. If it's been in there for 11 years, I mean, look at a local business or like Rods or something that has a waste oil burner, and
Yeah.
they'll eat that stuff up.
Dutton's has it, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
All right, so we'll keep that on the agenda,
right.
maybe before next winter. Figure something
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, and the same thing, I was gonna see where the budget's at, come May.
I don't want a
and-
space of heat after I forget the incentives were like a few hundred, like 500, 750, something like that you get from Green Mountain Power.
Might only be residential, I'm not
You sure?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
We'll find out.
I mean, it's a
does
few
a lot of work
$1,000, it's not a fortune.
Lee does a lot of work with gas energy, and I mean, he's not gonna steer him wrong. He's gonna put him in the right direction where,
Right, I got a price
Yeah.
from him and, Colby White, they gave us a price too.
yeah,
Just kind of in the ballpark price, just to see where we're at.
yeah.
And that was 2 heads, 1 heat pump, 2 heads, around that $7,500 range. But I think we just cut it down to the 1 head. And so, it might be the 6.
Lee, that's for a low temperature heat pump too, right?
I believe so.
Because they do make different ones.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would have to get it in writing.
Yeah.
This is just a, kind of to see what direction we wanted to go in.
Great.
Excellent.
Yep.
All right, so let's back up real quick here, the PACIF grant application. So, we'll need a motion to submit the grant application for $4,037.
I'll make a motion that we submit the 2024 passive grant application for $4,036.97 for lighting.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. All those against? Lee, I'll give this back to you.
Okay.
Do we have to sign it, or did you?
I don't, do we have to sign it?
Yes, you do. Senior official.
That's fair enough. So I'm not that old, man. I don't want to be the senior one here. Today's the 3rd of April. 24. So we got held up here. Now you can have it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, correspondence list, it's fairly long. Any discussion on any of these items that anyone wants to bring up?
If you're all set, I'm gonna take off.
That's fine, yeah, that's fine, thanks,
Okay.
Lee.
All right, thank you.
Did you bring the plow? Can you shovel the road to my house? All right,
Thank you.
so we'll move on to correspondence. Salmon Brook update. I'm in touch with Corey Ross from the Windham County, there's too many acronyms here, the Windham County River, whoever they are. He's gonna help assist with the RFP for the engineering work. And then there's a municipal organization that also will help with it. So where we're at is we need to get a request for proposal out for someone to come and do an engineering study on these projects to say, this is the way it has to be fixed. And there's money in the grant for that. So once we have that done, then we'll put out a request for proposal for people to actually do the work at one location. I'm not clear yet whether we can piggyback the second location when we went to 100% funding, but I'll find that out before the next meeting. Middle Road property, who's on Zoom? Is anyone on Zoom for the Middle Road discussion? I see, I know everybody there. All right, so I spent a lot of time on this. A lot of my life has been eaten up by this. So I just want to kind of get in the record what the status of the Middle Road property is. It was addressed at town meeting, and I think there's some confusion. We've gotten a lot of letters about it, so for those of you who don't know that are sitting here, there's a piece of property on Middle Road that a number of people in town want to conserve. It's privately owned. It was bought in November of 22. Building permit was requested and granted. Wetlands permit was requested and granted. There's appeal to the DRB for the zoning permit, which was turned down. And then there were two appeals to environmental court. One for the wetlands permit.
And that was a state permit, the wetland.
The wetlands state permit has nothing to do with Dummerston. But there's an appeal to that permit. There's an appeal to the state on the DRB finding, which granted the permit. And then there's two requests for dismissals for each one of those from the landowner. So that has not yet been decided. So at some point the court will either dismiss them or dismiss one or not dismiss any of them. At town meeting, it was presented the idea of the select board offering X amount of dollars for the property, and the town said no. So that's where we're at. Right now, the town has no plan to do anything moving forward. It's a private owner, he's got all his permits, he's got his land, so, and the town has said, we're not interested in select board even taking this up, so that's where we're at. Is there any discussion on that? Any questions?
Nobody is on Zoom?
No, nobody's on Zoom. We've got people here for the, let's see, yeah, all the people here are, Melissa's on for the emergency management plan, so there's nobody on Zoom. Nothing? All right. We'll move on to the next area. So this is the Bring It On Up Fire Department. And Alyssa will hit your emergency management plan draft here. Can you hear us, Alyssa?
Yep.
All right, and we can hear you fine too, so you can come up here if you want. Get on camera. And Jack Mannix is here also for this subject.
Is anybody else on Zoom?
There's Chris and Gail, Chris Brown, the treasurer, Gail Sorensen, and Lori, and Terry Chapman. Although that's not Terry, that's Bev. Oh, she's with Terry. Terry and Bev together are on there. Right, so emergency management plan. This came up last meeting. It kind of slipped by. to be honest. Work's been going on for like 4 years, I think, or 3 years on this, Alyssa. You would know the full timeline. It's been going on for a while. I know you've got a lot of typos that you're concerned with that probably need to be fixed, but this is to deal, one, with the emergency management plan, but specifically the item about an emergency access ramp at Dummerston Station Road is put in here. So a couple things, Alyssa, I'm gonna throw at you. So when I look through here, when it talks about emergencies, it has a list of items that are ranked, 18 or higher, I think, or 8 or higher. Flooding, earthquake, the earthquake doesn't make it, but there's a list of items that are things you're supposed to be addressing, right? If it has a grade higher than 8 in the cumulative score. And so in that same section, it talks about, here's the names, hang on, I'm getting there. I'm ready. Okay, right. So I'm just gonna read them real quick. Wind, fluvial erosion, ice, snow, cold, inundation, flooding, invasive species, heat, drought, infectious disease, landslide.
What page do you want?
Page 8, if you have it in front of you. Turn to page 8 in your textbook. Right above that in a paragraph, it says the hazards considered now only include natural hazards and align with what is contained in the state hazard mitigation plan. So natural hazards is what they tell us, and then they give us a list. And as you go further back now, we start getting into page 48, which it has the areas we're talking about. So on page 48, item 13 and 14, 13 is ATV, which can be addressed at a different point. I wouldn't worry about addressing it at this point. But 14 it says currently there's no road access to I-91 within Dummerston.
That's not
There is.
quite
There's a southbound access.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
And you rely on mutual aid for quicker response times to emergencies, calls on I-91 in Dummerston. And the hazard it's addressing is all. So, does it belong in here? If we're talking mutual aid access to I-91 for, I'm assuming, traffic accidents.
Yes.
Okay.
Or whatever kind of emergency happens out there,
Right.
whether it be brush fire, car accident, medical emergency.
Right,
Still working on the call numbers for that location,
sure.
for that stretch of highway.
So,
But would that be considered a natural?
it doesn't meet any of the hazards listed.
Right.
Though. A car accident is not a natural. Now, granted, I mean, there could be an Armageddon. It's like, we all need to escape with Nick Cage, so we need to get on I-91.
Brush fires aren't natural.
Brush fires are not listed on here. In fact, fire is not on here at all. What didn't qualify was hail, wildfire, but it doesn't qualify, and earthquake. So I don't want to, we need to get the plan in for one thing, the draft in. And so I don't necessarily want to dismiss the discussion. I still want to have the discussion because people are here. I'm just questioning whether it belongs in this plan at all.
Oh, that's a good, valid point.
Valid point, yep. So our main thought for putting it in there was to access federal funding if we were to move forward
Right.
with it in the future. That when you can state it was listed in your hazardous mitigation plan, you up your ante of getting that grant.
Right. Sure.
Is there some other plan? I mean, we would hope that this community would have some other plan that this would be more appropriate placed in. That it would fit, like, we don't have to like squeeze or massage the definition of what this entire, it says like it's 70 pages, but I
Sure.
realize there are 10 missing.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit here. Grant proposals may face very stringent scrutiny, and if they notice discrepancies, that could cause the denial of a grant application. There's gotta be some other place where this could go. I don't have a problem with having, like, the ATV thing, maybe that's gonna be helpful, and I'm not sure that I see about the access to 91 over farmland on a small road,
Right.
which my husband and I sent a letter earlier, but that's just my opinion. There's gotta be a plan that this would.
Do you live
fit in
on
better.
Dummerston Station?
No, I live, Poplar Commons,
Okay.
which is south of Dummerston Station Road and abuts the gravel pit, the current, now Dummerston Putney gravel.
So we did meet, Alex and I and Jack and Larry, we met out there and talked about this a little bit, right? And from the fire department side, so I'm going to give you the layman's, I'm not the fire guy, of my understanding of the situation, right? So I-91 from exit 3 to exit 4,
7 miles.
7 miles, is handled currently by either Brattleboro or Putney. So if E901 gets a call, somebody says it's at mile marker or whatever, they put a pin down and they call either Putney or Brattleboro. So Dummerston right now is not responsible for any of that road.
Well,
We are responsible.
we are responsible, but we pass it off.
For mutual aid, right. So Brattleboro and Putney have agreed to take this work.
Until last night.
There's last night activities coming, so we'll get that in a second.
Yes.
So Dummerston Station Road appears to be about halfway along that 7 miles. Maybe not exact, but it's probably pretty close. And so one of the discussions we had, and Mr. Mannix, if I misspeak, tell me, because I thought the same thing.
Jack.
Yeah. Is the difference, I already did earlier, I don't know why I changed. Is the distance from the school, which is where you guys would come out with the truck, up Route 5, back down to Dummerston Station Road is X number of minutes. From the school down 5 to Dummerston Station Road, out the gravel road that could be muddy or who knows what, to that point, I would like to know what the time difference is. And I know that minutes matters. I don't not want anybody to die on the interstate. I also think it's important to know that all the EMS services come from Rescue Inc. So you guys are providing trucks, right, to help
Well, we do also provide medical.
First response.
How about hazmat?
Yep.
I mean, if a tanker rolls over or, has an accident and it's spilling.
If it's in
Toxic.
Dummerston, ultimately it follows under.
Right.
Right. So, yeah, go ahead.
Did anybody do a calculation of the response time from, like, Putney Fire Department right there on exit 4?
Well, I think this is going to be the last night discussion that's going to come up. So there is Putney Fire Department, Brattleboro Fire Department, where are those departments at? How effective are they? It's set up. I'm not saying they are or not, right? My assumption being before the talk, when we were out there on the road, was that anything on the north end from Dummerston Tunnel, Putney Fire Department's right there. So they would cover it. And I assumed that Brattleboro would cover it. They'd have come out, I think, exit 2 and come and cover the southern part. So if one of those two is detained doing something else already, Dummerston may be the only fire department able to respond. So the question becomes, how do they get there, right? And does this make it faster in a manner that matters instead of just going up 5 and getting on the southbound ramp at exit 4? I don't know.
I did do some calculations on the timing. And first I want to thank Todd, Alex, and Larry for meeting with me down there. I did have some concerns. At first I thought there was going to be an exit 3 interchange on my farmland, so I was glad to see that wasn't going to happen. But there still had some other concerns that we were worried about. When I did a time calculation from the intersection of Schoolhouse Road and East-West Road, it was just under 4.5 minutes to exit 4 Putney, and it was just a little over 3.5 minutes to the tunnel going under 91. But of course, didn't take any calculations from the guys having to come all the way up to the top of the hill and then coming down to Schoolhouse Road. And also, I pointed out that there probably, I didn't do the calculations of how long the entrance would be to 91, having to get out, unlock a gate, probably, and get on that. And then, I didn't bring up at the time, but I thought later, the danger of a fire engine merging with I-91 traffic and then having to make a quick left-hand turn on the crossover if they wanted to go north. So those were, additional time constraints I think that ought to be brought up. The other thing I pointed out, and this one I know, I think Windham Regional is listening, I just wanted to point out that we were a little disappointed that this had been going on so long, and that it was a customer of our farm stand that called us and said, hey, you should take a look at this because it may be affecting you. Windham Regional Planning is their middle name, and I think when there's planning involved, they should call any landowners that might be affected by it. I called the Goodells, and they hadn't heard about it either, and so they were a little disturbed about it too. And I told these guys when I called Putney and talked to the town manager, they were a little disturbed that Putney wasn't informed about it, and that for going forward, they hope that Putney and Brattleboro would both be informed about if this was to happen.
So can I speak?
So real quick, Melissa, I want to give you a chance. Did you hear that? I just want to give you a chance to. She's Windham Regional Commission, so a chance to respond to that, the planning of all this and whatnot.
Yeah, sure. So the plan has, yes, you were under contract for several years, but the plan development hasn't been going on that entire time, because I had to basically didn't start the document right away, because I had to work on numerous other plans. But as far as the communication regarding the action, there are actions spanning all, and within any plan, any hazard mitigation plan, there's actions spanning all kinds of properties. It's not, we wouldn't be contacting property owners for any specific action because it's simply listed in the plan. There's no action happening by listing it in the plan. If the action went forward, then a process would align with whatever was appropriate for that action. So no, we don't contact, it's not standard practice to contact property owners of specific actions, because they may never happen. Them being listed is simply just a way for the town to have a comprehensive way of looking at all of the actions that are potentially going to happen in the next 5 years. The adjacent towns did receive copies of the draft plan, as is required through the planning process. So that did happen.
So can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's a lot of things, and I don't want to be foreseen as argumentative, but there's a lot of things that we have to take into consideration. And she's mentioned some of that, but we started talking about this just like in any organization, you hear a lot of stuff in the background that's going on. Now, Larry talked to Tom Goddard about this when it was happening. He's talked to Lenny Howard about it, Brattleboro and Putney Fire Departments. There's been some concern of people being on other calls and calls not being answered. For years, Dummerston has passed this off onto Putney and Brattleboro and just said, we'll wash our hand, we're not going to deal with it. Now, to be completely honest with you, it's scary as heck out there on the interstate. People drive like maniacs. It's a great risk. Putney and Brattleboro receive a huge amount of grant money because they're active on the interstate. So every time we're out here pinching pennies and scraping and scrubbing, just by taking care of our own town, that opens us up to a huge amount of grant money. We never talked to any of you guys because we were looking at in the state right of ways that you can't use anyway. It's all within the fence. So we're not looking at taking anybody's property or affecting anybody's property.
And also understanding that there would be a comprehensive review that would involve the homeowners
So
as the plan came together, not if it may or may not happen.
yeah. So the other thing is with going to exit 4 and coming back down. So yeah, it's a minute quicker to go to down through the farmland. But if we have to drive a minute longer to exit 4 and then drive all the way back down there to cross over to go north because the accident's in the northbound lane, then we're tripling our response time. Does that make sense? We're not trying to
Yeah, no, it does make sense. I know that, I know that Larry had mentioned that Putney Fire Department was having some issues, and I told these guys that I talked to the town manager and at Putney, and she said that, yeah, all fire departments are having some issues with getting the number of volunteers that they want, but that she didn't think it was a problem for them. They haven't had any problems handling the incidents on I-91. And I didn't get the data. Maybe you got the data about how many incidents there were between.
Not yet.
Yeah, and that is one of the shortest distances between entrances on 91, other than the ones that are close in Brattleboro. So That wasn't our only concern about the farmland. I mentioned to these guys that we were, people that I've talked to have said, that's crazy. So maybe it's just the people I know, but going down Station Road, which is a narrow road, during the summer when I have, and we have a number of tractors going up and down that road daily, and farm crews with a lot of young kids, pickers and weeders traveling that road. And we have to pull over when Derek has a lot of trucks coming back and forth because it's that narrow. And people pull over for us when we have a big farm implement on the back. So we were concerned about, the safety of our crew and equipment going down that road, safety of, a truck buzzing by our farm stand, which is can be really busy at times, and then hitting a road that might be affected by mud season, snow. You're gonna have to maintain the entrance. Somebody's gonna have to maintain that entrance to 91. We don't get much snow anymore, but when we do get it, when it would seem like it was a lot easier to go to exit 4. And there are 3 turnarounds between exit 4 and exit 3 across 91. So the one that you guys are talking about is I think probably just about in the middle. And I understand that the fire department, they're great guys and I've used them a lot, and their response time is crucial. They want to get there as fast as they can and do the best job they can. If that was the case, you'd put in money for a helicopter, because that would get you there right away. So we can't always do exactly what we want to do to get the, get to an incident as quickly as possible. I think we have to rely on rescue, which does an excellent job. They're right on the highway. They get there really fast. I didn't get a chance to call Brattleboro. I think I heard somebody say there has been some problems with Brattleboro responding to mutual aid, but
For motor vehicle accident.
yeah, I haven't heard of any, but and then, like I said, the town manager said that they had 31 active members on the Putney Fire Department. Some of those are Landmark College students, and they were actively recruiting. They were going to be actively recruiting 10 more, and it just seemed unusual to try to predict that the Putney Fire Department would be shut down. It seems.
There was an article just tonight in the Reformer Putney Fire Department, quote, in transition, Westminster, others to help cover.
So as of last night, we became responsible for half of the town of Putney.
Really?
Yes.
And they've asked us to remove them from all of our mutual aid calls.
Yeah.
So they will not be responding to Dummerston.
So
But they still would be responding to 91 incidents.
they don't have a fire department.
Pardon?
They have a skeleton crew fire department, so they've asked us to remove them from our run cards, which is Dummerston. That section of interstate is Dummerston.
So they just had a huge survey done on the department, and what was the amount of active members they had, Larry?
So they have 31 people on the roster. The AP Trait and Review said they have 12 active members, and 6 of which are Landmark College students, which will be leaving in May. And then 10 of,
That leaves 6 people.
And that was before Tom Goddard retired.
Wow.
and his wife.
And it sounds like the interim fire chief has now been replaced by Harlow,
Yes.
who's the
And
retiring.
multiple members have left
So
last night.
I'll redirect a little bit. I want to have a little more discussion, but for the emergency management plan, specifically being in here.
No, Todd, can I have a
Yeah,
minute? Okay.
yeah, of course.
So it's not the emergency management plan, it's the hazard mitigation plan.
Sorry,
They're-
hazard mitigation.
they're two different, they are two different plans. But just a bit about the purpose of the plan. I mean, as you mentioned regarding the natural hazards and the all hazards that are addressed in the plan, these plans are required to be all hazards plans and meet strict FEMA requirements. So they're pretty much written to meet FEMA requirements. and any hazard not addressed needs to be justified. And so that's why you saw the hazard ranking that you did. And right now the plan is, has been submitted to Vermont Emergency Management. I've gotten comments back, and it's now rolling in the public comments that I received, and we'll put a final draft to VEM shortly. I think that just to kind of put it into perspective, and to share where I come from, I mean, this plan it's written to meet FEMA requirements. But it is your town's plan, and I personally am not, vested one way or another in what this decision is. This is obviously a larger issue, and would be addressed in a way that would be specific to it if it was to move forward. I think that for the purposes of the plan, it really just makes sense to maybe break the action up, and as I suggested in an email, into 2 phases. Maybe the first being a phase where you are just considering the action and looking at grant funding sources, etc. And then the second action would be construction, and they could be phased out over time period beyond even the next 5 years. But I think, these actions aren't required by FEMA. There's no one that's saying, that's slapping you on the wrist for not doing something that's listed in your plan. As Chief Pratt said, they're listed there for access to funding. So it being listed does assist with getting funding. For any FEMA funding, it's pretty much required to be listed in the plan, because you have to pretty much justify why you didn't list it if you're seeking FEMA funding for any action. So we try to make them pretty comprehensive in terms of what the wish list is of the town to potentially do over the next 5 years. So I wouldn't put too much weight on, whether it's listed or not. Regardless, the town could decide, even if they list it, even decide, nope, we're not going to do this. But if they do want to move forward, it makes sense if it's listed to assist with grant applications. So within any grant, if it's a federal highway grant or what have you, it's still beneficial to have it listed and note it in your hazard mitigation plan. And these plans are all hazards plans. So even though it may not address, or it may cover actions that are beyond what people would consider natural hazards, it's not a problem to list it. It's still an emergency hazard related thing. It's something that your fire department considers useful and important to discuss. Frankly, just having these discussions is important, I think, and this being an impetus for having the discussion with the fire department and the folks that are concerned about it is probably a good thing. I just want to put it out there that I'm not pushing one way or another for you to do anything. You could remove it entirely and say, maybe we'll do it the next time, or you could just leave it in with the knowledge that it would happen with its own process. It's just there in case we want to move forward with a grant application to do it. So there's not really a reason, a downside to listing it, I should say, as is with any action. And I received 5 comments on this action. That's more comments than I've received on any hazard mitigation specific action in any of the 30 plus plans I've written for a lot of towns. And yeah, so I just wanted to kind of caveat and right size what it means for an action to be listed in a hazard mitigation plan.
Well, thanks. That's good.
And that's important. Yeah,
Yeah.
just one more thing. The most important thing really at this point is getting your plan submitted. So if you can't, I mean, I would say get me an answer ideally by the end of the week, as the public comment deadline is done, and I was hoping to finalize the draft tomorrow and Friday, maybe early next week, and get it back to VEM. But if you can't come to an answer, then maybe you want to choose to phase it, or maybe you want to say nope, not don't list it. So, but if you can give me an answer, maybe by Monday or something, that would be helpful.
All right.
Comment, sure.
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So, I was on the town website and, well, not the town website. I checked my old emails and I realized that in December of 2022, that Lori sent out an email to all town newsletter recipients, notice of Dummerston hazard mitigation public meeting, and that was in December of 2022. I think it was only offered as Zoom. And I'm wondering if these two items were on the plan then. I think I looked at,
No,
No.
they weren't.
and when did they
Yeah.
appear on the plan?
About a month
They
ago.
were decided in communications that I had with the fire department
And when?
this year, probably March.
So after town meeting?
I don't know. It doesn't, for an action to be listed, it doesn't have to be, there's no like specific public process to go through. I mean, any action can come onto this plan because of discussions with various entities that are affiliated with emergency management throughout the planning process as it's in development. It's not a problem that it wasn't discussed at that specific meeting.
Just find that sometimes trains leave stations and trains are really hard to stop. And that I want you guys to be able to respond to emergencies in an appropriate manner. Still concerned that it doesn't belong in this plan, still concerned that it has a huge impact on a lot of things that bears a lot more discussion than.
Well, I think hazard mitigation, it's, you're talking fire department. I mean, who else is going to be dealing with the hazards off the line? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, if
who's
we're
going to
not
be
worried
dealing with
about
it?
how consistent it is with the stated goal of the plan, then, that kind of wipes some things off the plate. That's true. If it's not related to natural hazards only, like the goal of the plan
Well,
is what she's saying.
even if it is natural hazards, who's going to be the first ones responding to that natural hazard?
At the,
A National Guard might be.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
It's going to be the fire department.
yeah,
First do, yes.
They're going to be first one called.
And then we'll
first
all
ones
know.
out.
Could be the highway department,
No.
different things, right? Well,
I just feel that it would be.
anyway, Doug, can I make just one comment to Alyssa while she's on there? And I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time. Alyssa, I would suggest that you revisit your policy of not contacting landowners that are adjacent or directly affected by these kind of things, because when you sort of give the impression that this needs to be done really quickly, it does give the a little sense of impropriety that it's being jammed through to outside people that are affected. As you guys know, we've dealt with some of these things in years past with the waste district. So I'm a little, leery of some of these things and their implications to our farm and our business and the roadway there and the school kids that walk along there to take the bus and, the residents on the road. So it might be a good idea to let people know a little bit more about it. That plan is, like I say, it's 70 pages, 10 pages missing. I didn't read the whole plan. I wonder if, the select board did, but it is a lot of reading and, to be notified that would have been a big help, and then maybe we wouldn't be in this position now. We could have dealt with it maybe a little easier.
could I ask how much of it you read?
I read just the page that affected our farmland, which was
Okay.
pointed out to me, which I believe was
44.
44, 43,
44,
yeah.
something like that.
48.
Yeah.
And I've read probably, that's how I found out there were a bunch of pages missing, because I was ready to come up to Lori and say, wait, you didn't print everything.
So
But I've read a good deal of the plan.
I'm concerned, and like Alicia said, that just because this is in the plan doesn't mean it's gonna happen. I mean, it's gotta be there in order to start the conversation. And I think when the conversation got started, if the federal government decided to follow through with it, that's when they would notify all the land abutters and do all that stuff. I mean, I understand that you guys got notified because somebody didn't like it and they called a bunch of people and passed it around. And I mean, that's all well and done. I mean, I have concerns about people speeding on my road. Kids walk on my road. My kids ride their bikes on the road. I mean, that concern is everywhere. And I understand your concern for your employees, but I mean, our drivers are, trained for response. The same thing could be said about Derek or the town going to their pit, or anybody that's going to the old airport. I mean, there's people that are going to be there, and our trucks aren't going to be doing 60 miles an hour on the road. They'll probably be doing the same speed limit that Derek's driving. So there's not really a big difference. And then to say that we're concerned about mud season for a month a year, I mean, I live on a dirt road.
So do I, but it's been a longer mud season than.
Well, this year we've had like 4 mud seasons, but that's not the norm. So I mean, I understand. I just keep getting cut off with everything. But I mean, I understand your concerns, but we have concerns too, and in order, we can't even start this process without having it here. So that's all we're doing, is trying to look at the future. There's a lot of things that never happened on the fire department in Dummerston, and a lot of that was planning ahead in the future, and we're only trying to be proactive instead of reactive.
Oh, I realize that. One of the things that Derek cannot move their pit and don't have another access. You guys would have I think a better access on Route 5, which is the road is much easier to travel. You can go faster, and it's much better taken care of.
So,
If this is in the plan and you start responding to accidents on 91, does that open the fire department up to other grants specifically for the fire department, not grants to build a ramp, but does
Yes.
it does. So that's one of the reasons why you would like to see, you want to take over calls to the
We don't want to
highway
take over fully,
to eliminate Putney and Brattleboro.
not eliminate, do our part to help.
Right, but that opens you up to be able to receive other
Right.
grants for equipment
Correct.
and whatnot. So why not then, because this is such a big change, not only for the town, because you've listed town funding to build this ramp. Yeah,
It says town funding.
It
Yes.
certainly does. So,
maybe Alyssa can speak on that, because I was
Yeah.
gonna say town fund.
Yeah.
It'd
It
be-
does.
Well, that's easily changed. I mean,
but my point is that this is such a big change, not only for Putney, Brattleboro, and Dummerston. So why not say, let's go ahead and start responding to calls on 91, but access it at exit 4.
Oh, that's our plan.
And,
We're not
and,
waiting
and,
for
try,
this.
and try that, and then if that doesn't work, and you find your response times are just astronomically long, then come back. So,
Yeah, so that's 100% our
right.
plan.
And because you're responding to calls on 91, you can already apply for other grants then for equipment.
Right.
You don't need this plan to apply for those grants.
No,
That would
you-
help for the fire department to get equipment.
You're 100% right, and that's our
Yes.
plan. We've already started our SOGs, because we're not gonna go out on the highway blind, so we've already started our
What's
SOGs,
SOG?
standard operating guidelines.
Alright.
To keep the department safe.
Oh, yeah, I just didn't know what the acronym.
Yeah, so we have to make sure our personnel is safe before we can put them in any
Right.
situation.
Yeah.
So we have to make our SOGs, and we have to train for it. Larry's already spoke with Chief Howard in Brattleboro and asked that, that while we're getting trained, that he cover all of the interstate for us. And what was the exact word you used?
He said, yeah, that sounds like a very solid plan.
but not long-term.
He didn't make it sound promising that
How
that's
many
the long
hazmat
term.
operators do you have on your?
What's
department? How many hazmat operators do you have on your department?
So everyone that's fire 1, I could get you those numbers. Everybody that's fire 2 has a hazmat. It's a requirement for fire 1, so.
So if I can comment, when I first heard about this concern from Jack, I was pretty worried. And, we arranged to meet Jack at the property. And after doing that, I was very relieved to understand, as Leon said, that if such a ramp went in, it wouldn't touch any of Jack's farmland. It wouldn't even be on that side of the interstate. I personally think it would be a really big project to do that. And I walked that whole section along there on the highway easement, and there's some drainage pipes that enter in there. I think it would be a pretty significant engineering project. So I'm personally doubtful that, the engineering would prove economically feasible to do that. Nonetheless, I see no problem retaining this in this plan if it allows that discussion to move forward. The impact on Station Road, I hear you, Jack, but I also know the people in the fire department, and I think they're going to be at least as careful as any of Derrick's drivers. And so it's a town road, and, allowing the fire department to use a town road seems, logical. And so, I hear you, and if this comes to the point where there's permitting that's being talked about, I think it'll be a long discussion. I'd be really surprised if there's an entrance ramp in 5 years. It could well be a lot longer. And
we don't know that unless we have an engineer look at it.
Right. Right. And
I think Maria's idea is a great idea, to test out the exit 4. Like I say, it is a dirt road, it's a narrower dirt road. You have Route 5, it just seems logical to try that first and to go that way.
So real quick, again, based on all this new information from last night, etc., this isn't, your intention is not to use this as an emergency on-ramp. Your intention is to use this all the time.
no, emergencies only.
Emergencies only.
Right, so you get a call on 91, you're telling me the fastest way is Dummerston Station Road?
No. It would all be mapped.
Okay, so how
So
much?
if it's
how many miles
closer to the exit 4,
Right.
we would obviously go up Route 5 and get on exit 4.
So again, how
It would
many
all be
miles
mapped.
of 91 do you need this exit to cover?
So anything from Dummerston Station south and anything from Dummerston Station north.
Or we just said if it's north near exit 4, you can use exit 4.
No. Because you still got to turn around and get on the northbound. So you'd be going all the way up to exit 4 to come back down, turn around, and come back up.
Well, there is a little crossover
Right.
just beyond.
And we don't want you guys to have to do crossovers. I understand.
Right. No,
All I'm
but
saying is that
Right.
this doesn't sound like an emergency on-ramp situation. This sounds like a permanent solution because you guys want to handle 91. So of those 3 options, exit 3, exit 4, if you had one at Dummerston Station Road, how many vehicle accidents are you going to handle with the Dummerston Station Road exit?
And,
That's
and I
important.
think that's where Jack was, the economic impact versus what it would take to build it
So-
would come into play into that plan. It would all come out in that analysis with the crash reports from the National Highway Association, response times,
Right.
your death toll
And-
increases
right.
over 8 minutes.
And I understand the grant stuff and I understand the hazard plan. I get it. The thing is of putting it in to get this process started, that fits your need. If somebody's not interested in this happening,
They can argue it later.
well, no, because the step's already started.
Exactly.
See, so from their side, it's an inevitable step,
Exactly.
right? If I say I don't want the road widened in front of my house on Middle Road, and somebody puts in a plan that we're going to widen the road within the next 5 years, I don't look at it and go, hey, it'll never happen. What I look at is that's the first step to it happening.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so putting it in the plan for your purposes or for the purposes of the people that are on the side of that issue, of course, it's a first step. In fact, you call it a first step. So people that are on the other side of the issue, they look at it as a first step to it happening. I think
see
that's
what
where
you're
you have to be careful.
I see what you're
I
saying.
definitely think this needs to be discussed sort it out, figure out what we want to do moving forward. I don't know what that's going to be.
So, can I ask Alicia?
Sure.
Alicia, so my what's that? Elise, I'm terrible. Alyssa. Sorry,
If you could see her name, it'd be easier.
yeah, that's true. So my understanding when we talked about this is it has to be put in there in order to do anything. But then before anything started, they would have to do the surveys and meetings. And then at that point, again, I guess that's where they, you know, they're seeing a difference in us. But I thought at that point, you know, the town still has to approve it before it can happen.
Right.
Wouldn't the
Yeah, I guess there's two parts to that answer. So if you're seeking FEMA funding, it has to be listed. If you're not seeking FEMA funding, it doesn't have to be listed. It's just that it benefits a grant application. So if you're seeking, you know, like a firefighter grant or a highway grant, then they're not gonna, it's just beneficial for your grant application in that case. So it's not, I mean, in either case, in whatever you're doing, yeah, you would have a permitting and an engineering design whole, everything that would be needed for this action would happen.
So if the next, let's say over the next 2 years or 3 years, if you guys are servicing I-91 from exit 3 and 4, because that's all you have, does that just simply eliminate the FEMA option because it's not in the hazard plan? Or could they,
I would say that FEMA is unlikely to be the best grant source for this action. So you would probably be working, you know, with some type of federal highway grant or some type of fire department grant.
you mean the action of adding the ramp or the action of working on I-91?
The action of doing this project, of engineering this ramp and putting it in, wouldn't likely be paid for with FEMA dollars because it's not, it's a more of a response-based action than it is mitigation, because mitigation is lessening vulnerability to hazards. This is assisting with the response to hazards that are occurring, so, or have occurred. So it doesn't matter. You can list response actions in a mitigation plan. It makes sense for you as a town to list all hazard related actions in this plan, because there's no better plan to put it in. But as far as, yeah, I mean, so I guess that kind of answers your question. It's not, I can see visually it looks like it's a first step, but it's not. It's just putting it on a list to consider, even though I understand what your thought process is. That's really not how it actually works.
So I just want to make sure I have this right, because I'm slow. Having it in the plan would help with grants, primarily FEMA, but you're telling me FEMA probably is not going to grant something like this because it's not a mitigation plan.
True.
So,
Yep.
So the grants we're looking for can be accessed other ways, from the state, from the highway, from the feds, not FEMA, by not having this in there, because you're doing work on I-91, right? So that opens you up to grants. It's that the emergency exit doesn't open up any grants at all, aside from very possibly FEMA.
Right.
she said it was it was basically mandatory to put it in there if you were going to pull FEMA grants.
Right, but it
will help with other grants.
It'll help with the
Yeah.
grants, having it in there.
Okay, so the grants beyond FEMA.
But is it
Grants
grants to
beyond
build
FEMA
the
is
ramp,
still
or is it grants to access for you guys as a department to get equipment?
It's
One
going to add
leads
to
to the
getting
other.
the FEMA grants.
But we just,
Increase.
this said,
Yeah, no,
it's not,
she
the
just
FEMA
said it
grants
was.
aren't gonna help with this. It'll
Right.
help with other grants.
Yeah.
So these things in here where you're looking for FEMA money, most likely, this item will not assist in the FEMA grant world. But this item may help with other grants.
But when you're responding out there is what helps you with your FEMA grants.
Got it.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's in the, my understanding, if it's in the plan, it would help the FEMA funding,
Except
getting approved for the FEMA
Except
funding.
FEMA funding isn't really gonna apply that much to this item.
Right.
No, it's not going to apply anything,
Right.
but it's going to help us get the
Oh, they're-
FEMA funding.
No, it's not.
Oh, wait,
Not this specific action.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, what Chief Pratt said is correct. It being listed here assists in any grant application. This particular action wouldn't be a FEMA mitigation grant application because it's not a mitigation action. It's still an emergency related action. And there's no other plan. You have your town plan, but there's no other emergency plan with actions for your town. So this is where you can list response actions, mitigation, anything. It doesn't matter that it's not, a specific like flood mitigation action or something like that.
Right.
It's still, it connects potentially with a lot of different hazards, and related to access and response times, et cetera, for the fire department.
Is the most valuable thing that the fire department could do, aside from saving lives, in order to access grants in general from the feds and from the state, be to be responding to the Dummerston portion of I-91? That's the trigger that allows you to then apply for grants because you're supporting the
Correct.
federal interstate system and
Correct.
state highway system.
Not only
Regardless of
that,
how
but
they access it.
Regardless.
not
of
only
how
that, but remember when we sat here and went over our budget,
Mhm.
we charged for motor vehicle accidents.
Yep.
And
That's
to
what I was just
non-Dummerston
gonna ask you.
residents.
Right.
So
If you want,
this is really about trying to get, recoup some money for the fire department and not keep pushing that ask to the town taxpayers.
So I know I miss you in the fall, Larry. So, but that step, what triggers, opens that box, is responding to stuff on 981.
Yes,
Yes, and
which we're
not
already in
this.
process.
This may make it faster, it may make it efficient, but we don't know that yet.
Right, and we don't foresee that happening in like Alex said, 5 to 10 years.
Right.
Like, we don't
it,
see
it
that.
says 2026 or sooner in here.
Well, that's
I didn't put that.
Yeah.
I didn't write that.
Yeah, so we understand that there's things that we could change words, right, yeah.
Words are important.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, and so, it obviously came in late to the review. I don't think it was around, this has been going on for a while, because I know the select board members listed 3 of them aren't even here, and 4 of them,
Yeah.
all of them are gone.
Except Maria.
Except me.
Oh, you were on it, okay. So, I guess, at some point, I understand the desire to have the ramp. And again, with Alex, when you look at the land over there, as I told when Jack showed up and Alex, like, I'm going to give you all my engineering expertise, which is 0. So obviously somebody would have to show up and figure out how much load. The other thing to consider is building that ramp, the amount of material they're going to have to bring in is mind-boggling. That's also going to affect that road, right? Trucks, construction equipment, etc. But that'll be for the engineers to figure out. The point being is, I think where we're at right now is, do we want this line item in the plan or not?
Or like Alyssa said, even possibly break it down.
Or
Do
break
like
it down?
like a half a step, not the full step.
Yeah, I think I would recommend that. If you want to include it, I would recommend breaking it up.
Well, I think there's a lot of things in here. It's stating that there's currently no access to I-91 within Dummerston, which is not true. Then it puts a hard deadline, I guess, I said 2026, it's 2028. And it specifically names roads. If it was more generalized, where it just said, rather than saying this is what we're going to do, if it said, we'll consider
Looking at
exploring the option in Dummerston, not necessarily naming a specific road. There could be other places that would be a lot better access, maybe not. Maybe you'll find if you give it a year, 2 years, that exit 4 and exit 3 are going to give you the access that you need, and then you can, do what you need. But this seems like it's just sort of pigeonholing us to take action, and it's, I would like to see this completely revised or removed.
Just curious, is this job security for engineers? Because before anything can move forward, you gotta hire those engineers to do all these things, and who pays? if Dummerston is saying that they want to build, well, if the town of Dummerston, if the townspeople of Dummerston say, yeah, we want to build that exit entrance, then is Dummerston paying for the engineers? Are we then seeking pre-grants to the grant process because we have to find, like, I don't know how that, I
know for other programs, at least a couple that I've worked with, engineering stuff is included in their money. But
Yeah.
as you pointed out, it's not Dummerston's money, but it's still our taxes. It comes from somewhere, right? It's from the state. So somewhere we're all paying for it. I just don't have to deal with the Dummerston budget because I'm already worried about next year. But so I'm on board with what you say. Word it something that says explore the option of I-91 access to the town of Dummerston between exits 3 and exits 4.
Yeah, I would support generalizing the language in this.
Yeah.
I would support that as well.
I'm not in support of pulling it all together, because I think it's good to have it written down somewhere so that you can point to that in, other grant-making work.
Right.
Totally agree.
But it removes some of the this is happening.
The funnel effect.
Right. Okay. So
Just.
So I'm wondering how, Jack, how do you feel about if it's more?
That sounds very reasonable to me. It also sounded very reasonable for the ATV,
I don't even deal with ATV. I'll leave that in there. I don't care. So when they ask for it, I can get it. I'm just kidding.
Okay, but again,
as long as they're trained.
Grant.
I will just make this comment, Alex. I don't agree with you on the safety issue. I don't think accidents are always caused by one bad driver and one good driver. That's why they're called accidents. You have a lot of people living at the Moore Farm down there, and you have there's a lot more houses than there used to be there on that road. And Rick Derrigan Jr. are excellent drivers. I can attest to that. So I'm not. We're used to them. We're not worried about that. It's just that I still think it's not the right road for that approach, and that the monies involved in building that might be better spent exploring other hazard mitigation options in town that might directly affect our tax base.
Which who decides where that money is directed? The
Yeah.
federal government, not the select board, and not the.
I'm going to take off that
All
one
right. Thanks for
because
coming.
I'm a little worried about my greenhouses ended up in New Hampshire tonight with the strong winds.
Don't lose my
And I
don't lose my
appreciate your
fruits and
time.
vegetables. Thanks
Thanks,
very
Jack.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Appreciate
So
your time.
I will just say,
that's what we're talking
guys, be a little careful going home. As I was coming up here, I was getting a little
Okay.
icy. I was glad to
Be
see you
careful
leave
on
a
your
little early.
car.
So
Would you be
Yeah.
able to draft something up?
well, so
Alyssa.
since this was since we're not removing it, I don't think we're going to remove it. We want to rewrite it. So
Yeah, I already reread it. So explore the option of emergency access to I-91 in Dummerston between exits 3 and 4. Do you want it more? Yeah. Is that what you want, or do you? And I'm asking all of you.
yeah,
I think that
sounds good to me.
I'm fine with that.
Are you still gonna list the town of Dummerston as one of the funders?
No, the funding, we'd like to remove town funding.
Yep.
Yeah, I removed town funding.
Right.
And Chief Pratt, does that work for you guys?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And maybe
Yeah.
take out taxpayer too. Take out 2028.
Yeah, by 2020, let's see, it's a 5-year plan. So by 2029, we can say, if you want, or we can change it.
By then.
2029, seek funding and town, what do we want to say? Town, decision-making process. And then beyond 2029 would be construction, engineering and construction.
Do we have to be that specific? I mean, can't we leave it open-ended?
Yes, you do have to be that specific with timing. Yeah, for FEMA
Well,
compliance.
can we move it back if you need to in another year or next time it
What?
goes over?
Say that again?
Is it possible to move it back? Like if we get to 2029 and we're not there yet, can
Oh,
we?
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Others
It
have
would-
been say 2032, 2035, 2040.
And they're doing 5 years, so we'll rewrite.
Yeah,
We haven't done it.
Yeah,
I just wanted to ask that question.
yeah, we have to list actions within the next 5 years. I think that, you know, if we're looking into funding and you're having your town decision-making process in the next 5 years, then beyond that, there's no time limitations or anything. And if it comes to 2029 and you're update and you're like, well, we're still in the decision-making process, then we'll just put the action relative to wherever you're at that point. It's not.
But so the fact that it's in the plan, you guys are gonna start responding on I-91, right? All of these
Well, that's
things.
separate. I mean, you're gonna
Right.
do that anyway.
Correct, but that opens up then the grant
Right.
stuff, right? So the fact that this is in the plan, that opens up the grant. You guys start working in 91, that opens up the grant process. And we can see how it's going, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that's all stuff we don't even talk about that right now. So I think,
Will Alyssa rewrite this and then send it back out to us to review again before she sends it?
if that's,
Well, we don't have enough time in the public process no, we can't do that at this
So-
point.
if the only
This
change,
is a pretty big, important issue
Right.
that a lot of people are concerned about.
I can send it back to the town, but I have to simultaneously send it to Vermont Emergency Management and continue on the review path that we're on because of federal deadlines and the grant.
So you guys will see that it's been changed. She just can't put it back out to public, I think.
Right. No, I'm not saying start the whole public I'm just saying that for the board and you know,
Certainly.
Jack
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Claudia.
Yeah,
and
certainly.
Mr.
I
people
can
that-
send to the select board,
Yes.
to the fire department, yeah, to you
Yes.
folks that are involved in this conversation, of course. And then, yeah, you can distribute it to the property owner, or whatever you'd like.
and we can direct them to that specific item.
Yes,
Because that's
exactly.
the
Yes,
change.
yes, yeah.
Now, there's a number of things, so names of select boards, some other things that Maria has seen in there that I think there's typo edits,
Mhm.
and she
Yeah,
just.
if you have stuff like that, please, the comment deadline is over, but if you can send me comments by the end of this week, is that possible?
Send it to you.
Don't blame me. Yes. Yes. We'll send you and these are small ticket items.
They're typos. And
Typos and names.
Yeah, no, I thank you.
I will
Yeah,
send it,
no,
we'll get those to you tomorrow.
perfect.
And if you want to resend out the new writing for line, whatever that is, 1415, we'll have it, and those people who've shown interest in it, we'll make sure that they have a chance to look at it, but that sounds like it'll work for us.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, I think, honestly, I mean, like I said, this is your plan, but I think it is smart to leave it in because you're not closing any doors. You're just leaving any potential doors open as far as funding. You're not making any decisions. You're
We
just,
said the door's unlocked, we don't say it's open.
you're just, you know, keeping it in the consideration list, which is smart. So,
Right.
yeah.
Any other questions for Alyssa? Thank you, Alyssa, for joining us and
Thanks
spending
a
your
lot.
evening.
Appreciate your
Yeah,
time.
thank you all.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Hey, see ya.
So given the weather, I think we should push through whatever's left on the agenda.
Yep.
Uh,
We're gonna go.
One more thing while we're on emergency
Yep.
management, just real quick. When you guys make your decision on new town emergency manager, we'll obviously be in contact with them, but previous emergency managers, we've tried reaching out 5 times through email and phone call.
I think we'll have it
with no
fixed
rush
in about an hour or less.
for the current town emergency plan.
Yep.
So,
So we interviewed him tonight.
Yep.
He used to be the Southern Vermont
yep.
Yeah.
Emergency Management.
They know Rich, he was.
He used to be assistant chief for us.
Well, there you go. So
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we're
that-
He's a good
Okay.
guy. He's a good guy.
yeah.
That should go away, but if it doesn't, if you don't choose him, then if we could get a copy of that current emergency plan.
We'll do it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
guys
you
have
for your
any
guys'
questions?
time.
Okay.
Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Yeah, keep us posted on what the impact of.
Give us some data, baby.
Yeah, that's
we will.
we're data driven people.
Yeah.
Us gurus.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
The LHMP development court report I submitted today, so it's done.
Thank you.
Great.
Take it off. Alex, letter of support for Landmark Trust.
Oh, yeah. So we received a request late, didn't get on the agenda, to support funding that Landmark Trust is seeking from a congressionally directed spending application. And I said I would bring that up tonight. I drafted a letter that I'd be glad to read if folks are amenable to that.
Do it in a good
Couple
solid
of paragraphs.
James Earl Jones.
It's directed to Senators Sanders and Welch. Dear Senators Sanders and Welch, the Dummerston Selectboard met on April 3rd, 2024, discussed the Landmark Trust USA's congressionally directed spending application for the preservation of the historic Rudyard Kipling home, Nalaka, and 2 outbuildings. Nalaka is a National Historic Landmark located in Dummerston, and funding would be used to enhance the resilience and longevity of these buildings from intense rainfall events that are becoming more and more common as climate change advances. The funding would be used specifically to improve drainage at these buildings and replace existing roofs while retaining the historic features. Paragraph. Nalaka attracts visitors to southeastern Vermont from around the world who can stay at this unique property, the only home of Rudyard Kipling that is outside of Great Britain. As such, these properties are vitally important to the town's and region's tourism economy. Ensuring the preservation of these buildings satisfies key policies in the Dummerston Town Plan, including, and I list policy 1.5, policy 2.1, and policy 2.2. And I don't need to go over those. And last paragraph, Nalaka is an important cultural landmark in Vermont, and the Dummerston Select Board believes that its protection from threats posed by climate change is a high priority. We fully support congressionally designated funding to support the Landmark Trust USA efforts to ensure that these buildings will be around for generations to experience and enjoy. Signed by Todd Davidson. And just for a little more background, Landmark Trust USA is a nonprofit organization based in Dummerston, 501c3. It's a spin-off from Landmark Trust UK, which is an organization founded 50 or 60 years ago. I was on the Planning Commission 25 years ago when Landmark Trust UK came to us, having purchased the building and Nalaka, and wanting to put money into it, turn it into one of their landmarks. So anyway, with that, I think that's
All right.
I think that's good.
Anyone want to make a motion?
I move we support it.
I second it.
All right. Any further discussion?
The only thing I'll say is that we typically, historically, do not get involved in private property support letters. That would be the only reason why I would probably not support it. But just that's historically, the board has never gotten involved with, private landowners.
Yeah, and I think, and I'd love to see us discuss that policy. I know that's been the case, and I was partly involved in that. My brother and I were selling to the Green Mountain Conservancy a number of years ago a property, and the organization, I wasn't on the board then, but came to the select board seeing if the town would support it, and they declined. So the organization then brought it to town meeting, and it was approved overwhelmingly. I personally feel that, I hear enough from town residents about the importance of things like land conservation and historic preservation that I have no trouble with us as a town putting our name on in support of efforts like this, even if they are private entities. And I recognize Maria's point of view, and that's fine.
I think it's Landmark, that's a great organization. They've done a lot, but it was just never something that the board has ever
But it's bringing money into the town.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that brings money into town.
Maybe if it's something we're gonna consider supporting like this in the future, or even with this, we could warn it ahead of time so we can get direct comments from the public to say, no, this isn't something you guys should handle, or this isn't something you should. So then it's less of us just taking it on ourselves. And
Yeah, I think-
it's not waiting for town meeting, but it's, giving people time to say
Yeah,
their
you're
piece.
into it, yeah.
Instead of just coming here and.
In this case, there's an urgency to it, but I did
Yeah.
let Susan McMahon, the director of Landmark Press, know that we might not be able to support this because of its,
I mean, I think it might be a good compromise between never doing it and then just taking on ourselves some time.
So what do we do with, so if the Conservation Commission issues a letter supporting conservation, or they get those questions every so often,
Mm-hmm.
with the nonprofit, and they send letters.
and
Obviously,
there's one that came in
Yeah,
today.
Right. Obviously, it's not a town,
right.
it's not the town, but it is the Conservation Commission. Do we have any concerns about that? It's an interesting discussion.
They're speaking
Yeah.
for themselves, they're not speaking
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the town or
Right.
the select board.
Whereas we're speaking for the town.
But for some of these things, some of these conservation things, if a town does not write a letter in support, and that's all that's being asked of the town, they won't.
It won't pass it, yeah.
Yeah, and it would just be not on any obligation for the town to do anything.
Right.
From there
Right,
on, just
and it
saying,
might be the
this
same
is
thing
something
with
we
this.
support, generally.
Yeah.
It's not us committing to money or committing to even maintaining the,
It clearly would
Property.
improve their chances of getting this funding if
that's what I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
the, grantor sees that the town supports the effort.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to see us still vote in support of this tonight. And in the future, always try to get more advance notice.
You agree with that?
Any other commentary? All right, so all those in favor of supporting a letter to the Landmark, in support of the Landmark Trust, say aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain.
And one abstention. Excellent. So we have you don't have a printer, do you? Do you have a version you want me to sign?
I didn't print it out.
If you want, send it to me. I have a scanner. I'll sign it and rescan it and send it
Okay.
back to you.
Well, send it to Susan, who
Okay,
emailed us.
email it
yeah.
to her. Okay, so let her know she'll get a scanned signature from me.
Well, actually, you were copied on that.
Yeah, I'm on all the
So
discussion.
you got the,
I'm just not sure I had the final version.
Tweaked.
That's the final version?
yeah, the one she sent.
These are to be signed. And Alex, that's for you to sign. All right. All right, so we cleared that. New business ARPA updates.
No.
All right, appointments. So we had, lost my paper, Priscilla Adler for the cemetery committee and Rich Cogliano
Yep.
as emergency management director. They came in earlier, so we're going to make a motion to appoint them.
So I actually have another committee too that we can appoint. So I'll make the motion for the following appointments. The Social Services Advisory Committee to reappoint Bill Pels-Walsh, Nancy Pels-Walsh, Sandra Campbell, Libby LaFlan, Terry Robinson, and Elsa Waxman. And then to the Cemetery Committee, Priscilla Adler, and for the Emergency Management Director, Rich Cogliano.
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor of said appointments, I'll make you read them, so we need minutes. Please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, appointments covered, open seats.
So is Lori still on?
I don't know. So what Lori wanted to discuss, because I talked to her, I have to open up my thing. I don't know if she wanted or not.
Do we, if she's not?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Lori.
Hi.
So what was wanted to cover, Lori, you can correct me, for this was the cemetery committee and setting up a procedure, one, to get more people on it, as we discussed earlier, to try to get a third person, and to set up a process where the first call is going to come to the town office. And so Lori would handle that call, take all the data, the information, give them information, and then refer them to one of the members of the cemetery committee, who would then take the ball from there and do what they need to do to make sure that everything's complete and done before burial. And I'm not sure that we have that process, but that's kind of what I think we should probably do. And obviously make sure that we have people on the committee who know they're going to get a call to take over. Am I missing anything on that, Lori?
No, that's exactly what I'd like to do. Just to make it easier for folks when they do experience a loss, to just be able to call one person, get as much information as they need, and then we can refer them to the next person who will actually take them to the cemetery.
So where would we publish that? On the town website?
I think so, yes.
So that people know, it's like, this is your
Sort
contact.
of procedure. for-
Cemetery procedures, please contact town office, because whoever it's from will handle it. Okay. I think we can do that.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't see why not.
And that's just a web page update.
Paul, do you want to write something up that would go on the website?
Sure.
And you could, your wife might weigh in on that.
Sure.
All right. Sounds good. Lori, we'll get that done.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Sorry you had to hang in there so long.
Not a problem.
She's like, she enjoyed it so much. Covered bridge steps. The timeline's pretty short at this point. I believe they're waiting for the grant, the final grant and scheduling for building. If we want, we can have Corey Ross either call in or have Christine show up to say, I mean, there's a little bit of discussion on if the grant shows up, when's the construction going to take place? Because it's going to take a little while to do the construction. Obviously, spring and summertime is when, but there's still ways down to the river there now. You can slide down a cliff if you want to. So that may be something we want to talk about with them. If they come back and say we're ready to go, it's May 15th. And it's like, well, a lot of people are going to show up. How long is it going to take? How long would that area have activity going on that might affect tourism? So
So do we want to table it till the next meeting?
yeah, let's table it to the next meeting. And I'll have Corey dial in because he's the one that's running all this for the Vermont River folks.
Great.
Investing in farmland protection monies. I don't know that we've gotten any further on
Well, I
that.
think the liquor control board.
Yeah.
Oh, we
So-
need to.
Oh,
right.
I don't have the new one. Yep.
Yep, so I'll make a motion that we recess the meeting and convene as the Liquor Control Board.
Second that.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve the following items. For Sandri's, a tobacco license, tobacco substitute endorsement, and second-class license. Scott Farm, first-class commercial caterer, third-class commercial kitchen, second-class license and outside consumption permit. And then Windham Wines LLC, catering request for events at Scott Farm on 6/1 and 8/17 from 4 to 10 p.m.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on those?
And for background on the process, the select board serves as the liquor control board, but we have to recess the select board meeting.
Do we have to sample the goods?
We'll bring everything you want to serve.
Make a motion.
All right. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of granting the licenses, say aye.
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 So I'll make a motion that we adjourn as the Liquor Control Board and reconvene the meeting.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay.
That fit right above the unfinished business,
Yes, it
didn't it?
did. Yep.
You printed one for me, and that got lost in my work.
So,
Okay. Go ahead.
anything else?
No,
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Well, we didn't, or were we just gonna table the?
we're at the table.
Yeah.
Sometime when Paul comes to the meeting, we can
Yeah.
talk about it.
Is Paul the?
The treasurer.
Okay.
Paul,
No, Chris.
I'm Chris, sorry, Chris.
Paul Monfort. All right.
Did somebody second my motion to adjourn?
Alex did. No, we want to stay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.